American Top 40.
You're with the Shadow, and here's our highest debut by a Swedish group called Ace of Base. They come in at number 26 with All That She Wants.
Casey's Top 40.
For Casey Kasem, I'm David Perry. Now we're up to the number one song in the USA on Casey's Top 40. It's by a group whose members say they tour so much they have to go through a decompression process when they get home. This group is one of the most relentless touring bands around. They regularly spend more than 200 days a year on the road, and often well more than that. And they say that after all that touring, during one of their rare periods at home, they've developed a ritual they have to follow to get back to something close to normalcy. According to Linn, one of the two female singers, the first thing they do when they get home is for each of them to totally isolate themselves from everyone, even each other, for a full 24 hours. It's very helpful to be alone because they often haven't had a moment alone for weeks before. The next day, Linn says she stays alone again, only this time she spends part of the day just opening her suitcases and, in her words, letting the fresh air in. By the third day, she says, she and the group members start doing their laundry and actually speaking to people again. And by the fourth day, they've pretty much decompressed from the road and they're back to normal. Until a few days later when they have to go out on the road and start the whole process all over again. Well, all that hard work has paid off for this much-traveled band from Sweden because for the third week in a row, they have the biggest hit in the land. The number one song in the USA on Casey's Top 40 is Don't Turn Around by Ace of Base.
Casey's biggest hit.
2 years ago this week, one of the biggest hits in the USA was Don't Turn Around by a Swedish group who say all they hoped for was some radio airplay in America. Instead, they wound up with 4 top 10 hits in a row. The members of Ace of Base say that even in their wildest dreams, they didn't expect to dominate the charts for a full year. All they really wanted was some exposure that might lead to a tour. Instead, they turned into one of the biggest acts of 1993 and 1994, hitting big with All That She Wants, The Sign, Living in Danger, and the number one song that was one of the biggest hits in the USA 2 years ago this week.
The hits from coast to coast.
I'm Casey Kasem. We're hearing the biggest hits in the USA by the biggest stars in the world. Well, now we're up to the song Cruel Summer by Ace of Base, with a member who thinks there's nothing crueler than being told she has to get on an airplane. But she says she's willing to try anything to get over her fear. Linn Berggren, one of the two female voices in the Swedish group Ace of Base, says that she's totally and completely terrified of flying. As soon as she gets on a plane, she gets dizzy. She feels the walls are closing in on her, and she panics. But she also knows that she has to get over her fear. You see, one of the reasons that the super Swedish group called ABBA came to an end was that Agnetha Fältskog wouldn't fly. And after turning down many opportunities to tour and get exposure around the world, the group began to fall apart. Linn Berggren of Ace of Base knows that story well, and so she's tried hypnotism, acupuncture, psychotherapy, and various anti-anxiety medications. She says it's getting better. And anyway, since her brother and sister are both in the group as well, there's always somebody nearby to hold her hand. This week, Ace of Base is flying high on the charts, moving up a notch to number 20 on our survey. Here's Cruel Summer. 7 years ago this week, back in 1994, one of the top hits in the USA was The Sign, one of 2 number 1 hits for a Swedish band who thought they'd never succeed outside of Sweden. In one interview after another, this foursome has said that they never thought their music had the sort of appeal that would make it popular outside of their native land. They say they were surprised when their sound took off in the rest of Europe, and astounded when it exploded in the USA with 5 top 10 hits, which included a pair of number 1s. Don't Turn Around, and the song that was one of the top hits in the USA 7 years ago this week. Here's Ace of Base with The Sign.